The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lawrence. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Heckma Harrison, Rob Phillips, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's a Wednesday edition of Talkin Cowboys here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios. As always, it's the normal crew at hand. It's our resident Super Bowl champion, Isaiah Stanback. It's Rob Phillips, the Cowboys insider. And it's the fantastic, oh man, look at Heckma Harrison with the drip and the Cowboys sweater today. I like that. I like that sweater a lot. It's like a vintage look. And by the way, Talkin Cowboys is now presented by GEICO. We've got ourselves a title sponsor, ladies and gentlemen. So how about that? Talkin Cowboys presented by GEICO
Get out
today.
of here.
Yeah, we've got ourselves a Talkin Cowboys title sponsor. So GEICO
I like
is
it.
now our
Down
favorite.
the best commercials on TV.
Oh, yeah,
The
for
best
sure.
commercials on TV, hands down. They just keep outdoing themselves.
It's pretty fantastic how they continue to have good commercials. I mean, we had the gecko lizard, we had the caveman, we had the hump day. I mean, all of it has been fantastic. So, lots of
It is hump day.
It is hump day. Oh,
That's
wow.
right.
Okay, so now we've got. There we go. So now we've got something else new for Talkin Cowboys. Well, it is hump day, but guess what? There's Wednesday night football or Wednesday afternoon football to talk about, including the team that the Cowboys are going to face come up next Tuesday. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers today, and it's kind of the craziest situation that you could potentially have. I mean, RG3, Robert Griffin III, a Texas-born, Texas-raised quarterback, is starting for the Baltimore Ravens tonight and supposedly going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I say supposedly because there were a couple more positive tests, and everybody has to test through if they're Baltimore in order to actually play tonight. So any other updates that you've heard of, Rob, in terms of this game and how it could potentially affect the Cowboys moving into next week?
I don't know how it affects the Cowboys just yet. I think the Cowboys are just doing their thing, just trying to, go through their schedule and get ready for Tuesday. It is next Tuesday, right?
It is.
Yes.
They're supposed to be back to practice today, and I think the schedule for the Cowboys is to practice today and practice on Friday and Saturday. So that looks like what they're planning to do, and hopefully this game stays on schedule for the third time. And, as far as Ravens Steelers, just what you said, Kyle, Ian Rappaport was on NFL Network today saying, like you said, there's still some POC tests they've got to do, and they've got to wait those results before that game can be kicked off. And there's still questions about who's going to be activated for the Ravens. So it's kind of hard to talk about them right now just because we don't know who they're going to have available, other than we know RG3 is going to start for them.
And I know they activated Trace McSorley, the backup quarterback out of Penn State. He was activated yesterday. So they have two quarterbacks, which is, more quarterbacks than what Denver had to work with this past week. But that's something that is significant going into this game. This game tonight doesn't necessarily affect the Cowboys outside of the fact that it needs to get played in order for them to play next Tuesday. That's pretty much the bottom line with it. Plus, like you said, Rob, it's crazy. How do you prepare as a Cowboys organization? They're literally out ready to practice here in the next, hour and a half? They'll be out on the practice field. What do you prepare for if you're looking at a Baltimore team and you don't necessarily know who's on the other side? Isaiah, that you might be the best one to answer that question.
Well, I can tell you that I'm going to have on my Essilor lenses today, and I'll be watching that game. But aside from that, you're prepared just like, the good thing is they have, 11 weeks of game film to go off of? Sure. So, what happens today doesn't really matter much. I think these guys are, they've been pretty doggone punished in terms of this whole COVID deal, so they don't even have a defensive line. I don't know who they're playing on the D-line today. But, you take it with a grain of salt today, but you got 11 other games that you can look at to build your game plan off of.
Heckma?
Yeah, I mean, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, for all of the teams that are involved in just trying to figure out what's going to happen over this next couple of hours or the next week or so. I mean, look at the curveball that those guys have been thrown. And teams are just trying to scramble to figure out who they're going to be facing on any given week. So, I mean, for the Cowboys, obviously, they're watching this closely to see how this is all going to come out. But I just believe that the NFL at some point is going to have to step in and make some major moves, whether it be extending the season out, giving everybody an extra bye week to get this thing under control, because the second surge, as we've all anticipated, in COVID is actually happening. So, you know, they're probably doing everything that they possibly can with the contact tracing, all of those things, but it's really kind of hard to contain it week to week. And you're just starting to see every week that this is just kind of getting a little raggedy how they're approaching it.
Kyle, I guess one of the reports, too, is that Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins will not play despite, I guess, being removed from COVID-19 reserve.
Wow.
Earlier in the week. They've been activated, but they're not going to play, so you don't know who's going to play running back for the Ravens this week. I guess their hope would be Lamar Jackson gets back for the Cowboys game. To Heckma's point, talking about trying to extend the season and give them a Week 18, the NFL just doesn't seem to want to do that. And I wonder if it has to do with, you know, you got the top two seeds in each conference that get a bye. They get a week off, and it's basically 2 weeks before they play the divisional round. If you played a Week 18 and they're not part of that, as my voice cracks again, then you would have...
I'm a real boy!
Yeah. The Sopranos are back. You would have 3 weeks for those top two teams in each conference to just sit around and wait. I don't know if that's fair. Maybe that's a Russ thing that they're concerned about. But at some point, you know, if this keeps on this trajectory, they may have to do something. Like Heckma said, we'll see. I mean, they're just trying to figure it out as they go the best they can.
Isaiah and I talked about this yesterday while we were kind of finishing up Film Room, and we were talking about the fact that the NFL is so reluctant to finally add that Week 18. And I guess this point, it's kind of a moot point because you're supposedly going to play tonight for this Pittsburgh and Baltimore game. But do you think fantasy sports plays an impact in that? I mean, we're talking about something that shouldn't influence the real game, but at this point it's $1 billion industry. Do you think the fact that pushing this game back and talking about fantasy football is one of the reasons that could potentially be the reason for no Week 18?
I think so. I know we talked about it yesterday, Kyle. I think fantasy, not solely fantasy, but I think all of their contractual obligations that they have with all their corporate partnerships and sponsorships and all that stuff, all this stuff has timelines on it. All this stuff has red lines. So, and there's a domino effect, right? So once one thing moves, if you move 1 week, everything's affected. I think there's all kinds of stadium, timelines and usages and all that kind of stuff. It gets crazy. So that's why they're trying everything they can to stay within that window. But as you alluded to, if this thing keeps rolling, I don't know what they do, because they're going to lose a lot of money if they decide to extend the season out.
Heckma?
So you're saying capitalism has something to do with
just
this?
a tad
I'm
bit.
so surprised.
Yeah,
just the NFL.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I mean, we've talked about this at length before the season even started. What would happen if something like this happened, and how would the NFL adjust? We looked at the NBA and what they did with having the bubble and all of that, and people were really excited about the way that the NBA handled it. The NFL being one of the biggest leagues in the world, I think they're just trying to satisfy a lot of different groups in this. And I can see that, like Isaiah said, if marketing dollars, stadium dollars, there's a lot that goes into it. I don't know if it's fantasy so much, but like you said, Kyle, it is a $1 billion industry, so it may very well have something to do with it. But I just think as a whole, the NFL is just trying to scramble to figure out how to get all of this done. You got to think about it. We have 5 more weeks in the season, then you have 4 weeks for the playoffs. So, man, how we get through the next 9-10 weeks is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean they've put in so much work trying for the safety part of it for the players, and obviously they want to play the games. They've got the TV contracts, and they don't have the attendance coming in this year, so that's going to be a huge revenue loss for the league, no doubt. it may come to the point where it's, I know they dismiss the idea of a giant bubble like the NBA had or like the NHL had, just in terms of the number of players, but teams may have to follow the Cowboys blueprint as best they can. Like we mentioned yesterday, that most teams don't have a hotel next door to or connected to their facility, but there may have to be those home market bubbles just to try to do everything you can to lessen the risk of transmission. Let
me ask you guys this question: Had the NFL known that it was going to get this bad, do you think that they would have elected to do the bubble before camp started?
No.
Like a full bubble or just 30?
Bubble.
Oh, I just don't know if you could have pulled it off. Like in terms of having a facility that could do that for thousands of people.
God, that would have been an Olympic. That would have been like the Olympic Village. I wish we could have been on that one, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Cool, but.
But the home market bubbles is another option, and I guess it's not. The Cowboys staff has moved over there, but I guess it's not in that revised CBA that the players have to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something they have to revisit, and because it seems to be working for the Cowboys. They've had a couple tests here and there. Of course, Andy Dalton's back, but for the most part, they've done pretty well. The biggest thing is you have to be responsible on your own. And guys have done a good job of that.
There is still a possibility of a playoff bubble, though. I mean, do you think that that's something that the NFL should severely look into? I mean, we saw it with at least Major League Baseball for a tad bit, where they took the divisional series and they put them in separate locations, and then they had different locations for the NLCS and the ALCS, and then ultimately the World Series was held in Arlington. So do you think there's something of the sort where you could put these playoff teams in a bubble? And I know Cowboys fans probably don't want to talk about playoffs right now, but it's something to think about whenever it comes to COVID-19 and the current situation that we're in.
I think they should.
Okay.
I think they should. I mean, that's the only way that you can protect the brand. You can't control this virus. That's number one. You can't control it, but as I always say, control what you can control. And if you can limit the accessibility that people have to your players and your staff, then why would you not do that? I don't care how inconvenient it is. Again, like we talked about before the season started, inconvenience doesn't matter when you're committed to going out there and try to win a ring. I don't give a doggone about convenience. Give me an opportunity to win a ring.
Heckma?
Well, there it is. I mean, I think that they just have to be very careful with this. I mean, getting a bubble together for the playoffs. You're talking, 14 teams in a bubble? How does that travel? I don't know. The numbers would probably be, again, another logistical nightmare for the NFL and just trying to handle that. But I think that guys would side where Isaiah is. They wouldn't care one way or another. I think it's the chase for the Lombardi is what these players care about. And so if it's just we're talking about a couple of weeks to get that done versus how the NBA did it for months, I think that would be something that the players would be prone to doing.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of knew this second wave was coming because once fall and winter comes, people were indoors more, and then it's flu and cold season, and it's not necessarily COVID, but it's symptoms, and you don't know what they are, and then that causes concern. So, I'm sure they're having discussions on contingency plans, and maybe you could do, and I'm just spitballing here, maybe you could do a NFC bubble and an AFC bubble in one city, and then and just try to handle it that way. I know the NCAA is planning looks like doing the whole tournament in one city this year, which no March Madness this year was like a blow to my heart, to my soul.
Yep.
So hopefully they can pull that off, and maybe that's something that the NFL could look at too.
I think it's something that you got to look at, and maybe even if it's 4 cities, you talk about like 4 different cities. You take the southern teams, the eastern teams, the western teams, the northern teams, and put them all in a bubble each specifically. I think that's something you could potentially do from the playoff standpoint. I guess that would be a little bit different, but because of the divisions and the overlapping of these games. But I think you got to at least throw out these contingency plans and see how they fit into what could potentially happen for the NFL coming up in the playoffs. But, the Cowboys still technically not out of the playoff hunt. They're still a game and a half back or actually just a game back of first place now in the NFC East. We're going to talk about some of the later parts of the season and where the Cowboys could improve after we take this break when we come back here on Talkin' Cowboys.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Dear, it's 1908. Don't you think we should get electricity?
And stop using candles to see at night.
It's just electricity lights up the room fast. It's more reliable than candles blowing out, and people seem to love it nationwide.
Well, candles are...
Dear, did you just run into the wall?
Nope. May I have a new candle, please?
Historically, switching to new technology is a no-brainer. Today, it's AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. Switch to AT&T 5G. It's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan. May not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
So we have now established the fact that we have a resident Super Bowl champion, and Isaiah was asking questions about the Parcells Final Ride poster in the back of Rob's setup here, and so now I apparently have to call Rob the resident Emmy Award winner on the show as well. So
Stop it.
Got a couple things we can hit up there whenever it comes to Heckman. You and I got to pick it up.
Super Bowl, Emmy.
No, Kyle. No, Kyle. Wait a minute, Kyle. Don't do this now.
What's that?
Because we know Rob has the Emmy, right? So Rob has the Emmy, and then he has another little Emmy, right? So we got 2 Emmy Rob, right?
Yep.
We got Rob P. Island and 2 Emmy Rob.
2 times.
So, and then we have Mr. Heckman Harrison, who has signed the GOAT, Muhammad Ali. Nice little frame picture back there in the background. That's called stunning right there.
That
That's
is
what you
pretty
call when you say
stunning.
you're stunting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's called stunting. And then we have just me, who's just I just have a picture of myself that somebody painted of me. That's cool. All right, but then we have you, Kyle, and, and you've already made it very clear that we're just your background dancers.
Why?
And that you're the host of this show, and all of us just play a small part, and and we're just little pawns. He's
LeBron.
Yeah,
he's LeBron, and we're like Della Vadova, and
exactly. The guys that you can't pronounce their last names. Yeah, so we're
not
really
Kyrie,
just the
not even
pawns that protect you on the chessboard. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
Why do I ever let you take the reins of this show ever? Like I don't know.
CBZ's in the back. I don't think CB would disagree with what I'm stating right now.
Yeah, well, CBZ's also won a couple Emmys of his own, so he's got some Emmys back there as well. So he's got some of the golden trophies. I don't even know what they're called. They hold the globe up there. But welcome back to Talkin' Cowboys with Essilor lenses. You'll see every exciting play. You can book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and see what Essilor can do for you. See more, do more, Essilor. Got to throw that in there here on Talkin' Cowboys, presented by GEICO. I got to remember to say that too along the way. Now, yesterday we had fans on the 50. We answered a couple questions. We kind of got off on a tangent, though, based off of a couple of those questions. So I kind of want to go back through and answer some more questions from yesterday. So if you're watching and you sent in a question yesterday and I completely ignored you, we're not going to ignore you anymore. So Dallas Smith sent us a question and actually tagged me and Rob in this. And he said, do you think that Jerry told Mike McCarthy that Kellen Moore has to be the offensive coordinator and that's why we haven't seen Mike take over the play calling or push more influence in on the offense. And the reason why he's asking this is it's hard to believe he's okay just sitting by considering his role in Green Bay, speaking, of course, about Mike McCarthy. But, Heckma, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think that's the case, or is it basically what we've heard from Mike McCarthy saying that it was a part of his plan to have Kellen Moore?
Look, I'm going to have to go with Mike McCarthy and what he said, right? He came out and said that he, after being in his bunker situation in Wisconsin, he had a lot of time to think about how he was going to proceed as a head coach, and analytics was going to be a part of it. And when he interviewed for the job, that he knew that Kellen Moore was an up-and-coming offensive coordinator. Look, I don't believe any of that, right? I believe that, yes, he was told that Kellen was going to be the offensive coordinator. Otherwise, I think that he definitely had a play sheet in his hand. So I'm sorry, guys. I just couldn't feed you that bull right there. I had to stop myself.
Wait, hold up. So wait, did you just flip the script? You said that you think McCarthy would want the play calling?
No, I just flipped the script. Anyway, I believe that he definitely was told that Kellen Moore was going to be a part of his staff. And otherwise, I think Mike McCarthy and the history that he's had as a head coach has been that he's been the play caller. That's all we've seen from him. And especially during a season like this, he would definitely have, and I believe he has more input, but I don't see him saying that I'm just going to give up all offensive play calling. So I think this is a new wrinkle for him as well.
Rob?
I think that's a heck of a question.
Go ahead. Yeah, Isaiah, what do you think?
I'm a conspiracy theorist, man. So I think that Mr. Jones may have told him, hey, this is the one thing that I will have control over in terms of your staff. There's a potential there. So I definitely can see your point, because I would have thought that Coach McCarthy would have taken complete control over the offense by this point as well, especially with all the resources that he has at his disposal on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
I'm going to say no. I do think Mike came into this interview situation knowing that Kellen Moore was highly regarded as a young assistant, and so maybe he knew that would probably help his cause. But I mean, he also looked at last year, and they were the top-ranked offense. Now, they didn't always show it, and sometimes they had trouble in the red zone. The points didn't match the yards necessarily, but Kellen did a nice job a year ago, and he did tell us when he took the job that I think he did take he gave play calling away in Green Bay once, and then I think he took it back. But maybe with a new staff, he decided being kind of a walk-around guy was the best thing anyway, taking over a new job. And I also think, he's coming in with clout, with a Super Bowl. So I don't think I don't think it would be a situation where Jerry would say, well, if you're going to take this, if we're going to give you this job, you got to have this. I think Mike probably came in with enough clout to do what he wanted, basically.
Yeah, I'm kind of there as well. Whenever you talk about a guy who has been to the mountaintop and has won a Super Bowl title, I mean, we had talked about it in the offseason as well. Whenever Mike McCarthy was coming in, was Kellen Moore going to be a part of this? He was the one guy in question where it seemed like he was going to stick around. But even then, I think McCarthy had an opportunity probably to say, I want my own guys, I want to run the offense, let me do this, let me do that. And it probably would have sailed. I think it would have ended up working out. But with this being said, I mean, there's been a lot of questions on Kellen Moore. There's been a lot of questions on McCarthy, especially with their in-game management. And I heard this on the way in today. Sean and RJ were talking about it on 105.3 The Fan. They do great work over there. But is Mike McCarthy a better in-game manager than Jason Garrett was, at least through the small sample size that you've had throughout this season? Because the fact of the matter is that was one of the biggest things that Jason was knocked for. Wow. And now McCarthy's getting knocked for. The fact that that's even a question is a bit concerning, is it not?
Yeah. Not good. I got to scratch my head on that one, and that's not good. To date, I would have to say I put them on the same pedestal. I think they're on the same level right now.
Wow.
I think if you put them on a scale, Right now, I think it's probably just doing that for a second, then it's just evening out because some of the things that Coach McCarthy has allowed to happen on this team this year doesn't make sense. Decisions that Garrett's made in the past doesn't make sense, and I think they're on the total opposite end of the spectrum. I think Garrett has been overly conservative, and I think that McCarthy has been overly risky, and so I think they're literally just leveling each other out.
That's perfect, Isaiah.
Yeah.
because that was a thought when you asked that question, Kyle. I'm like, wow, they're polar opposites of one another. And the polar opposites make it even because, like you said, Isaiah, one's super conservative and one is super aggressive. and I found there were several times last year where I was scratching my head, trying to figure out some of the in-game decisions. And boy, have I been scratching my head a lot this year. So.
Yeah, and it's not just Mike's decisions in game that you can question at certain points. Certainly the Washington game, it's kind of been across the board in terms of being more aggressive. Defensively, we've talked about it. They tried probably to put too much on the plate early in terms of scheme, and then they pulled back. Offensively, they're taking more risks, and certainly on special teams they're taking more risk. It's almost like the previous staff too conservative, and then they've gone in certain circumstances too far in the other direction. Sometimes that can happen with new staffs, and it's great when it works, and when it doesn't work, that's when we have these types of discussions, especially when you're 3-8.
But Rob, just so everybody knows, and I know you guys already know this, your job as a head coach is to coach the coaches.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's your job as a head coach. So whatever happens on the field in those three phases of the game, offense, defense, special teams, that's on you. Because even though that you might not have called it, you allowed it.
Yeah.
So if you allowed it, you might as well have called it. So his job is to monitor the activity, monitor the calls, monitor the schemes of these three coordinators and say yay or nay on what you're allowing them to do. So it all falls back on him as a head coach because he's supposed to manage them and they're supposed to manage the players.
He is definitely ultimately responsible, and he knows that because, he's the only guy on staff whose the record is attached to him. So, and he, you know what? He doubled down on that fake punt just like 2 or 3 times. Like, we had a good look.
And that bothers me.
Yeah, he said you can't think negatively in those situations, but ultimately that's what happened. That cost you the football game, or at least prevented you from having a chance in the final half of that quarter.
It is a lot. And it kind of goes back to that veto power that we talked about yesterday, and how Mike McCarthy, in the end, if a play call comes on over the headset like that, and it's like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't run that. It's not a maybe. It's a, hey, let's not run that. Let's not do that. Let's punt this football away. Let's not try and do something crazy here. But like you said, he doubled down on it. Now, I kind of respect him for it, but also I see where you're coming from, Isaiah, whenever you're talking about the worry of in-game management, the fact that he did double down on it, that is a bit of a concern, even though I think he was just trying not to throw his coaches under the bus at that point, or trying to throw anybody under the bus. Now, this is another question that came from Ismail on Twitter, and he said, will we see more Michael Gallup? And the reason I want to ask this is because his targets just aren't there. They haven't been since Dak Prescott was really taken out in Week 5. It hasn't been the same Michael Gallup, but this is a guy who you really needed to step up and be either your number 2 receiver or even your number 1, and he's instead slotted back into number 4 right now behind even Dalton Schultz at the moment.
Yeah, the situation has kind of penalized Michael Gallup with the offensive line, all of it, the quarterback. Before the season, we were talking about 3,000-yard receivers, and we're nowhere close to that. And so I think, when you talk about Michael Gallup and just what he had to do this year, I think even everybody was even saying CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. Maybe you can, look at moving Amari Cooper, which is contract makes it literally impossible at this point. But still, you felt as though going into the season you were going to get major contributions, and you did. You said it, Kyle, before the Dak injury, he was a viable option in our offense and made our offense function well. Right now, he just, he's out there pretty much as just a decoy, doing a really good job at blocking, things like that. But he's not getting an opportunity to show his playmaking abilities. And when he also has had some drops too. So you got to include that.
Isaiah?
True that. Those are good points, Heck. Yeah, those are good points, Heck. I mean, he has the opportunities he has had. He hasn't taken advantage of them. I mean, all those opportunities play a big role and a huge, huge part in whether or not Andy Dalton believes in him, right? Whether Andy Dalton builds that symmetry with him, right? So when he actually does have opportunities to sit back there and throw the ball without pressure and he delivers the ball on point, if the guys don't catch the ball in his head, regardless if that guy was dependable to Dak, he's not dependable to me. Right, so you lose a little bit of confidence in that player in regards to you as a play caller, as the one at the helm of the quarterback position. So when you're playing quarterback position, you have your guys. It's not something that's necessarily intentional. It's just something that happens, right? You have chemistry. You have some symmetry with guys that just natural, right? When I throw the ball, he's where I want him to be. He breaks, his body language, how he breaks and he makes his cuts, all those things, they work for me, right? They work for me. Yeah. And it's just, and he's there when I need him, right? And whenever he's there, he makes the play. I can depend on that. So as we talked about in the pregame show the other day, Kyle, that's my night blanket, right? That's my safety blanket, right? So it's somebody that's dependable, somebody that I can always look for and lean on when I'm in certain situations. And obviously, Amari Cooper has been consistent through and through, regardless of who's at the quarterback position. So that's why he gets that paycheck. But when it comes to the number 2, number 3 guys, it has to be a field thing. It has to be a symmetry thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys are right about the drops. I think he had 2 drops against Minnesota.
Yep.
And you know what? His drops last year, they were really the only thing holding him back. He was kind of near the top of the league in drops last year. He's been better with that overall this year, but I just did a quick Aggie math, so this was probably wrong. Of the number of targets for Gallup and CD over the last in the games that Dak's been out, the full games. I think that's 6 games now, and it's basically even. It's like 41 for Mike and 40 for CD. So, I think a lot of it's probably just a product of not having Dak, the line. You're seeing more underneath stuff. I mean, Dalton Schultz has kind of emerged as, like you said, Isaiah, kind of that night blanket. So it's just hard to know. I think, to Heckma's point, I think if Dak had been healthy and the line had been healthy, I don't know if they would have had 3,000-yard receivers, but the production for everybody would have been way up. Because CD's numbers really haven't been great either, to be honest with you. He had the great catch against Minnesota, but
he's had some drops.
He's at missed opportunities, 21 yards, 34, 71 against Pittsburgh. The offense just has been out of sync, and the receivers have suffered from it.
Well, I mean, and even you look at CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. CeeDee Lamb, 53 receptions to Michael Gallup's 37. Then you got CeeDee with 650 yards, Michael Gallup's 538, and CeeDee has 4 touchdowns, while Michael Gallup only has the 1. So, I mean, right now, it looks as if Gallup is still the deep threat. I mean, 14.5 yards per reception. That's more than anybody else on the team at the moment. Dalton Schultz underneath is just over 9 yards per reception. So he is that underneath safety blanket. Schultz is the tight end. And you could say the same thing about a ton of quarterbacks. I mean, look at when the Cowboys had Tony Romo take over. Who was his safety blanket? It was Jason Witten. And so you have that tight end, that quarterback kind of thing. But Michael Gallup is a deep threat. That's the kind of receiver that he is, and that's kind of where the suffering has come from a wide receiver's numbers standpoint, is you haven't had time to throw the football because the offense is out of sync. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Gallup has just not had the same sort of success. All right, let's take our second break. When we come back, we've got a question that surrounds Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz. What does this have to do with what's coming up this week or what we've seen this week? We'll talk about it next on Talkin Cowboys, presented by GEICO.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes. which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Dear, it's 1908. Don't you think we should get electricity?
And stop using candles to see at night.
It's just electricity lights up the room fast. It's more reliable than candles blowing out, and people seem to love it nationwide.
Well, candles are...
Dear, did you just run into the wall?
Nope. May I have a new candle, please?
Historically, switching to new technology is a no-brainer. Today, it's AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. Switch to AT&T 5G. It's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan. May not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
It's the final segment here of Talkin Cowboys presented by GEICO. And whether you're listening to Talkin Cowboys while you work or watching highlights or even trading some of those fantasy draft players that may or may not be playing tonight and cost you your fantasy game if they don't score more than 7 points, because that's exactly where I'm at. Bose Quiet Comfort Earbuds lets you experience audio in a whole new way. Bose Quiet Comfort Earbuds are the official earbuds of the Dallas Cowboys. I need Eric Ebron to score me 7 points tonight on my fantasy team, and that's all I ask, Eric. Please, because if not, I'm eliminated from playoffs. So I need that to happen. So I need this game to happen tonight. Also, I don't want to push back the Cowboys and the Ravens any more than it already has been, because it's going to get played next Tuesday. Kyle Yeomans, Isaiah Stanback, Rob Phillips, and Heckma Harrison. I got one final question for you guys. I'm going to start off with Isaiah on this one, because I just think that would be fun. So this comes from Cowboys Coffee Talk, and they've asked a couple questions lately, and they've been some pretty good ones. But this one has to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's kind of targeting not only Eagles fans, but it's targeting kind of national media at the same time. And it says, why is Dak, a fourth-round pick who overachieved, seemingly held to a higher standard than a guy drafted in the second overall pick slot, who was traded up for, signed long-term, and whose team is 6-1 and won a Super Bowl without him, and also not to mention that he has regressed? Is it a refusal to admit being wrong, or is it because he is a Cowboy? And this is, of course, talking about Carson Wentz, the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Isaiah, what say you, sir?
That's a heck of a question, and I really don't have a clear understanding. I can only speak to my personal opinion.
That's what I want to hear.
I used to put Wentz and Dak on the same level. After this year, my eyes have opened. I've been awakened, and I believe that Dak is substantially more important to his team than Carson Wentz. I was one of those people that was like, oh, Wentz got him all the way to the playoffs, and then Foles took over. I was one of those guys, but now having a look at it, Wentz doesn't have no dog in him. He ain't got no dog in him, and I can't respect anybody who doesn't have dog in him. I don't care how successful of a history they have. I respect Dak. I respect his fight. I respect his leadership now. The role that he had on his team, I was unaware of the impact that he had on his team prior to this season. So my perception has now changed, and I don't know why they would even be in the same conversation anymore. So should Dak get more money than Wentz? Heck to the yeah. I know that wasn't part of the question, but I'm throwing it in there anyway.
Love it. It's fine with me. Heckma.
Heck to the yeah. I'm gonna go with that. So, no man, I never thought that Dak should have been in the same conversation with Wentz. I don't think he should have been in the same conversation with Goff. I've said this for a long time that Dak has been, the prognosticators or draft guys who had drafted this guy, had him pegged as a fourth round guy, were wrong about him. I think his talent, his leadership ability, all of those things. He's a baller. He's a gamer. He's the kind of guy that you want on your team, and it's just going to get better. It sucks that he got hurt this year, but I think what it is giving Cowboy fans and everyone around an opportunity to see what you're missing. And maybe it's kind of backwards to say that, he's probably advanced his career or how you think of him more in an injury than being on the field. But I think people will agree with that because he is a missing piece right now, and you're seeing your offense just have no synergy or rhythm to what they want to do. So, Dak is definitely the future for the Dallas Cowboys, and Carson Wentz, he sucks. And I love it. I mean, it's the best part of 2020. It really is. No, it's the best part of 2020 because it would be heartbreaking for me for us to have as bad a season as we're having, and Carson Wentz would be balling. So I'm just so happy to see him doing so bad. And he's terrible. They need to play Jalen Hurts. They need to play Jalen Hurts. Yep.
Carson Wentz is a nice guy. You're being mean.
So?
I think he's going to be traded after the season. That's what I think.
He might not be wrong.
He should be.
It's rough up there right now.
Rob?
It's who he plays for. It's who Dak Prescott plays for, without question. How many quarterbacks do the Eagles have in the Hall of Fame? Is it? I guess maybe it's one. Is it Sonny Jurgensen?
Probably.
Maybe.
It's not Captain America, and it's not Troy Aikman, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and between them won 5 Super Bowls. That's what it is. It's what Tony Romo faced, and it's what Dak Prescott faces. And I don't feel sorry for them in terms of the criticism. They're making a lot of money. They're high profile guys, and it's a great job to have. But there's a lot that comes with it, and just. If you play for the Cowboys, you're going to be in more of a spotlight, and especially if you play that position, you are going to be so scrutinized, Isaiah, because as time passes more and more, it's like Troy Aikman never had a misread, never threw an incompletion, and when Dak does that, fans see that stuff and they think that doesn't happen ever by anybody that ever played the position for the Cowboys. So to me, it's all about who you play for.
Troy Aikman was Uncle Rico out there.
He was Uncle Rico, 100% completion percentage.
I bet I can throw this ball up that year mountain.
If I should just go back.
So it's safe to say you guys don't want to trade Dak Prescott in the 4th overall pick to the New York Jets and go get Trevor Lawrence. You don't think that's gonna? You don't think that's a possibility come this offseason?
No. Somebody else can have white Jesus.
Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there. By the way, Chris is doing some outstanding work in the back again. He just did some research. This is not Aggie math. This is top notch math from Chris Beam. But he comes up and he says that Carson Wentz, should he be traded by the Philadelphia Eagles, would cost Philadelphia $59 million against the cap next year. So
he ain't going nowhere.
They're kind of stuck whenever it comes to Carson Wentz. So that's kind of interesting whenever it comes to that situation. Yeah, I know Heckma's just chilling on that dead cap, and he's excited about it up there in the top right here.
Hey, Kyle, Kyle, will they be open for somebody trading for Jalen Hurts?
No, I think they're going to keep him. I think they'll keep him around. Does that answer your question?
I think Peterson said this week that they weren't going to make a change at this point. I don't know if he ruled it out. So we may see.
His Jalen Hurts might be Taysom Hill because they're starting to work him in more and more.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not going to take that long for him to take over, I don't think, whenever the time comes for that. But that's going to do it here for Talking Cowboys here on this Wednesday. Do want to have a schedule update for you. There's no Talking Cowboys on Friday. Instead, right around 11 o'clock, we will be doing the draft show here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios, the first edition of the draft show, an hour and a half worth of draft coverage. So no talking on Friday. We've got Say It With Your Chest Monday for the first time in this show's history, so that'll be fun. Coming up next week at 9:30. We'll be back tomorrow, though. We're going to preview the Cowboys and the Ravens and see what the Ravens have for the Cowboys after tonight's game whenever they play the Steelers. But for Chris Beam, for Heckma Harrison, for Rob Phillips, and the great Isaiah Stanback, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Once again saying so long here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios. We'll see you tomorrow here on Talking Cowboys, presented by GEICO.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!